polling, everything's tightening right now, but it's hard to make an assessment of which poll you should follow or this and that, but things are tightening without a doubt. And that's what typically happens around this time of year when you're going into an election. But in Pennsylvania, Oz, supposedly it's tightening a little bit, but it seems the more he exposes himself, not literally like in that way, but the more that he voters or other people get a look at Oz, the worse he does. Here is ABC's Mary Kay Bruce speaking to a local recovery counselor. Pennsylvania is one of those states, Ohio is another, where the opioid overdose epidemic really, really devastating these states. And they brought in, Oz did some type of like event to talk about the problem of fentanyl in the state of Pennsylvania.
And he's a doctor, so he should at least have some sort of like medical or clinical expertise to offer on this front, right? You would think. Or
just even as a person who wants to be senator, like you should have a policy. They invited some local counselors, one of them, Justyn Payton, and this is what his response was.
But in addition, the opening of the border changed dramatically the amount of fentanyl that could be abused. And to put some perspective on this, last Friday, the state troopers who have endorsed me released data that in the last quarter, they confiscated 7 times more fentanyl than they had 2 years ago. 7-fold more fentanyl.
So, yes, it's coming from the border. I can't deny that. But there's just as many pushing the opioids like they did from 1996 to 2004, where they made record numbers in the billions to feed into this opioid thing, right? And here we are still having the same conversation 4 years later, 8 years later.
What did you make of what you heard about what he plans to do to address this crisis?
I really, outside of securing the border, I didn't hear a plan. I didn't hear a plan. It was the same old, how can we force them into detox? How can we secure the border? How can we force them into detox?
Based on what you heard in here today, do you think that if he's elected that he'll be able to make an impact, make a dent in this crisis?
So I came to contribute any expertise I could to this event. And I was pretty undecided, not after today. Not after today. I think I know which way I'm going to lean.
You just spent about an hour on a panel with Dr. Oz, and that actually you think swayed you away from him?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Being on this panel just convinced you to vote for John Fetterman?
God bless everybody at that table, outside of the people not from Johnstown. They came here, it was the normal election time, dog and pony show. I care, but do you really? And, he left without even asking a question or answering any questions to the media. And obviously there was no audience in attendance. There was no grieving parents of people who lost children to an overdose, or children who have lost parents to an overdose. Like, they weren't invited. This was, I'm insulted.
Wow. It was pretty clear.
That doesn't seem like that was the plan that Oz had in doing that. Come and get local counselors to feel like, to say on television that they were completely unimpressed.
And as you said, he went into this undecided, and that just completely swayed him against. Because the whole emphasis on the border, especially when you're in Pennsylvania and say your brother or your niece or whoever has been dealing with opioid addiction, it just does not feel very present, because addiction is so personal and it's such a family and I guess just, interpersonal issue, what people deal with, especially in those kinds of, especially right now, acutely in Pennsylvania and Ohio and other states like that, where it just creating some sort of phantom boogeyman and then also not speaking to people after. That's not a way to campaign or make people feel like you're empathizing with their situation.
Right. And here's the thing. There is no stopping it from coming in. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
That has never been a thing. If they stop fentanyl, it'll be something else. I mean, we have never been able to stop drugs from coming into this country. It's just absurd. It is absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah, and even just like the tactic of it as well. Like maybe if you're talking about fentanyl coming over the border and you're running in Texas or Arizona, it has a little bit more salience, even though it's wrong, as you say, you can't stop it. They're in Pennsylvania, dude. He's copy and pasting like a national Republican narrative onto his campaign.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, yeah, undoubtedly the fentanyl comes. It's maybe some of it is manufactured in this country.
Some of it's coming from China, too.
Some of it's, yeah, and it's coming into the country. It's not, it's not just coming in one border or another, but that is the talking point, and he's sticking with it. And he was not terribly impressive to this recovery counselor. I hope they play the heck out of that interview.
Yeah, the reporter did a good job just being like, so you're saying after spending this time with him, you can't vote for him? He's like, yes.
Exactly.
Right.